If your world's a dark, starless night, Kuk Horai, then from now on, I'm your light. If the sun won't guide your way, we'll just walk through the night, 'cause even the brightest stars can show the lost their way home. I never thought I'd say words like that until I found you. A man so breathtakingly handsome, so heartbreakingly strong, yet living a life of utter despair. I found you in a pool of your own blood. I was the one who called the ambulance, the one whose hand shook dialing your family. The voice on the other end was cold, asking, "Is his life in danger?" I replied, "Not yet." The call was instantly disconnected. No further questions, no concern, no rush to the hospital. It wasn't until much later that I understood. Kuk Horai, in his entire life, no one had ever truly chosen him. My name is MNH Pham Ting, a community officer, 2 years into the job in this neighborhood. I'm the youngest to earn the most accolades because I was born here, grew up here. I know every alley, every face. From neighborly squabbles to family disputes, to administrative tasks, I handle everything smoothly. Let's just say I'm well liked. Recently, I've been busy going door to door, helping with residency registrations. I never expected that at the last household, something would happen. The name Kuk Horai on the list caught my attention. As I stepped out of the elevator, a panicked housekeeper rushed towards me, clinging to me, saying the homeowner had accidentally cut himself with a knife, bleeding profusely, collapsed on the floor. I didn't think twice. I bolted into the house. All I saw was a huge, red stain. The man lying in that pool of blood. I froze. It was him. It was Kuk Horai. I didn't hesitate. I immediately called 911, reported to the police, then frantically searched the house for anything to stop the bleeding, to give him first aid. Luckily, the hospital was close, and the ambulance arrived quickly. The housekeeper stayed behind to cooperate with the investigation, while I rode with a police officer. I'm not sure if the housekeeper saw exactly how Kuk Horai got hurt, but both the doctor and the police discreetly hinted that the cut didn't look like an accident. Too clean, too straight. I understood their implication. They thought he'd done it to himself. No way. He wouldn't do that. I argued, utterly certain. The police officer turned to me, confused. "You said you're a stranger, just here for work. How can you be so sure?" I choked, only able to shake my head. I just feel like he's not that kind of person. The officer didn't say anything more, but their eyes clearly disagreed with my gut feeling. After being saved, Kuk Horai was temporarily out of danger, but he was too weak. No one knew when he'd wake up. The police called his family multiple times, but no one picked up. That meant no one was coming to take care of him. They recontacted the housekeeper. She said she only came occasionally to clean, wasn't family. Finally, I offered to temporarily stay at the hospital and care for him until he woke up, then he could call his family. I used my position as a community officer, claiming it was my responsibility to assist residents in need. The police left, even complimenting me, but only I knew that my heart held more than just responsibility. I sat by his bed, looking at the man with pale skin, a delicate face. My gaze inadvertently fell on his left leg. I remembered the first time I met him, Kuk Horai, the man who made me believe in love at first sight. It was a late afternoon. The sunset painted the sky in fiery hues. An old woman was pushing a cart of oranges, struggling up a long hill. I had just parked my electric scooter, about to go help, when a figure moved ahead of me. It was a man, walking with a limp, his left leg seemingly injured, yet his back wasn't bent. He stood tall, like a pine tree on a mountain. He bent down, bracing his back, helping the old woman push the cart of oranges. From a distance, the posture looked comical. Passers-by all turned, pointing and whispering, those eyes, half sympathetic, half scrutinizing. I think he felt them all, but he didn't care. He just quietly moved forward. When they reached the top of the hill, the old woman gratefully held his hand, not letting go, then enthusiastically pressed a pile of oranges into his hands. She smiled, and he smiled too, a radiant smile, like the setting sun, so beautiful it made your heart skip a beat. He saw the old woman off, then slowly turned, step by step, coming closer to me. My heart beat faster and faster until he passed by, a faint smile still lingering on his lips. I had never seen anyone with such a unique aura. Despite his injured leg, the light around him was so dazzling, no one could overshadow it. My eyes followed his retreating figure, and my heart, from that moment, followed him too. So, love at first sight truly exists. And this man, Kuk Horai, who had moved me so deeply, whose smile I couldn't forget. How could I believe he was someone who wanted to give up on life? Kuk Horai finally woke up late the next evening. During that time, doctors and nurses had checked on him several times. I vaguely heard them say that the patient seemed to have no will to live, didn't want to wake up. Kuk Horai's phone was eerily silent, not a single notification. According to the police investigation, Kuk Horai was 26, a year older than me. Besides his parents, he also had a younger brother. But why didn't anyone pick up the phone? Doubtfully, I picked up his phone. My finger gently brushed over the cold, dark screen. No fingerprint lock, no face recognition. The screen just lit up. No password. In this day and age, someone still doesn't have a screen lock. Kuk Horai once again made me see him with different eyes. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to open your phone. Don't worry, I won't snoop. I just wanted to find your contacts to call your family for you. I thought maybe if I called from his number, they'd pick up. But the contact list was empty. Not a single number. I was stunned. Kuk Horai, once again, completely surprised me. Just as I sat there, bewildered, the phone in my hand suddenly rang. It was a woman's voice, sounded like a middle-aged woman. I guessed it was his mother. The first thing I heard when I picked up was, "The police said he's in the hospital again." What now? I paused. It wasn't worry, nor concern, but tired, impatient resentment. I didn't feel it was appropriate to ask too many questions. I simply stated my identity and reported that Kuk Horai was injured and currently in the hospital. I didn't mention the police's suspicion of suicide, but I specifically emphasized that he was alone right now. My reply was a question, cold as ice: is his life in danger right now? A flicker of hope ignited in me. Maybe she was just outwardly cold but inwardly warm, actually worried about him. But as soon as I said, "Not yet," the other end clicked, hanging up. I was dumbfounded for a few seconds, then angrily blurted out, "This is definitely not his mother." As soon as the words left my mouth, a hoarse voice sounded in the hospital room. "She is my mother. She's always been like that. As long as I'm not dead, no matter how miserable my life is, she doesn't care." I jumped up, overjoyed. "You're awake." Kuk Horai opened his eyes, staring blankly at the ceiling. "Did you save me?" he asked weakly. I replied, "His housekeeper found him. I just helped call the police and the ambulance." He was silent for a few seconds, then chuckled. Softly, he tilted his head, looking at me, and gently said, "Thank you for saving me." I awkwardly scratched my face. He smiled. "Beautiful, really." At that moment, I suddenly thought, the police were wrong. Someone who knows how to say thank you. How could they be someone who wants to die? But before I could ask for clarification, Kuk Horai chuckled and added, "Too bad, I didn't die yet." I couldn't imagine what he had been through, but that yet once again pierced my heart. Since he was hospitalized, no matter how busy I was, I made sure to bring him meals every day. He always politely said thank you, never making me feel awkward. Today, I was rarely off work on time. As I carried the food container to his door, I heard some nurses chatting. They were changing the bedsheets, whispering about him. Girls' minds are often similar, especially when the object has a face and aura like his. How could anyone not be moved? Especially when Kuk Horai's face and aura were so outstanding. But in the end, the nurses could only sigh helplessly. Their words and eyes were mixed with pity and confusion. They couldn't understand why a man like that would consider suicide. Or maybe it was heartbreak, suffering from a love affair. It was also possible that he was outwardly glamorous but inwardly burdened by debt, or simply facing a temporary crisis. I stood outside the door, listening quietly to everything. I didn't know what Kuk Horai had been through, but since his admission, besides that one phone call, no one had visited, and no one had called a second time. It was as if he had been forgotten by the whole world. I pretended I had just arrived, gently knocking on the door. The nurse said he wasn't in his room, he was out for a walk. I went down to the small garden in the inpatient area, looked around for a while, and finally found him sitting by a flower bed, silently looking ahead. His gaze was directed towards a bald little boy in a wheelchair, being pushed by a nurse, sunbathing. I walked over and sat next to him. He glanced at me, then at the thermal container in my hand. My good Samaritan is here to feed me again. I chuckled. Taking care of residents is my duty, you know. He took the food container very naturally, not refusing at all. Then, his tone, as if seeing through everything, sounded, "Actually, you're just afraid I'll do something foolish again, so you come here every day to keep an eye on me, right?" I was speechless, not expecting him to be so direct. I just don't understand why you did that. Why you hurt yourself. I looked at him, my heart both nervous and anxious, waiting for his answer, eager to know, yet afraid to touch his pain. But Kuk Horai didn't avoid it, didn't beat around the bush. He just said faintly, "Mnh Pham Ting, you don't need to understand why. I just don't see any reason to keep living, that's all." Then he lowered his head and ate, not saying another word. Even though Kuk Horai was withdrawn, now that he was right in front of me, Mnh Pham Ting, I had to get to the bottom of this. "You seem to enjoy looking at me," he glanced over after finishing his meal. I leaned forward, blinking innocently. "Can't I look? You're handsome, it's not weird to look a lot." He leisurely put the lid back on the container. I saw his hand was still injured and wanted to help, but he was stubborn, insisting on doing it himself. "Your words are sweet, and the food is good, but from tomorrow, you don't have to keep running back and forth to bring me food anymore." "Why?" "Thanks for the community's concern, but as you can see, I'm almost fully recovered. I shouldn't waste your time anymore." "Is that all?" "I don't mind at all. Besides, I'm doing this voluntarily. You don't have to feel pressured." He frowned. "Voluntarily? I thought the community sent you." "Are you dreaming? Community care is real, but a one-on-one escort like this would wear us out. So why are you doing this?" Kuk Horai's eyes showed clear confusion. I'm the type of person who's clear about my likes and dislikes, so I smirked. "Kuk Horai, I bet you don't have a girlfriend yet, do you?" "No, I don't." If he had, I'd consider myself heartbroken on the spot. He shook his head slightly, then seemed to guess my intention, and hesitantly asked, "Do you like me?" "That's right," I admitted with a bright smile. God knows how happy I was when he shook his head. I wanted to fly. But he didn't seem to believe me and started listing his flaws. "What do you like about me? My gloominess, my sullenness, or my limp?" As he spoke, he laughed, as if telling someone else's story. That laugh, though, made my heart constrict with every beat. I cut him off. "You're more than just those things. You have a handsome face, a unique aura, you're polite, and you even help people." "Help people?" he repeated, a little startled. I nodded and told him how I first met him. Kuk Horai listened, a hint of surprise, as if realizing something. "Just for that, you liked me?" "Yep," I replied. "Because at that moment, you showed me a different side, warm, passionate, radiant like the setting sun. You were like an ancient tree standing tall, rooted deep in the earth, its leaves green and lush. Below is darkness, above is light. People are like trees. They have more than one side." I looked at him. He looked at me for a long time, then a faint, bitter smile curled his lips, and he shook his head. "That's just your illusion, Mnh Pham Ting." "Oh," I said, my face still smiling brightly, as if I didn't care. After a moment of thought, I decided to take the initiative. "Kuk Horai, do you want to be my boyfriend?" "Boyfriend?" He froze, perhaps thinking he misheard, and asked again. I nodded, my eyes never leaving him. "You're really strange," he said, a hint of sarcasm in his voice, still wanting to date someone like me. But he wasn't mocking me, he was mocking himself. "So, let's try it." I tried to reach out and gently took his hand, very discreetly, but very sincerely. He didn't pull his hand away, just looked at me silently, his eyes still dim and unclear. I was a little nervous, my heart pounding, afraid he'd refuse, afraid he'd push my hand away. But in the end, he did nothing. He just chuckled softly, not holding my hand, but not pushing it away either. That was enough for me. So, it's decided then. From today on, you're my boyfriend, MNH Pham Ting. On Koo Korai's discharge day, I was busy with work and arrived late. It was almost sunset when I finally rushed to the hospital. As soon as I arrived, I saw him sitting by the flower bed where we used to meet, surrounded by children playing and chattering. The bald little boy was sitting in his lap, and they were both talking and laughing, enjoying themselves so much. A while later, the parents came to pick up their children, leaving only Koo Korai and the boy. At that moment, it looked exactly like school dismissal at a daycare. All the children had someone to pick them up, leaving only 2 waiting. During Koo Korai's hospital stay, he seemed to visit that boy often. I never saw the boy's parents. It was always the nurse with him. Perhaps that's why Koo Korai was especially attentive to him. Or perhaps he saw himself in the boy's shadow. Soon, the nurse came to pick up the boy. Before leaving, she said something to Koo Korai. I couldn't hear clearly, but I vaguely saw her thanking him. Perhaps for taking care of and talking to the boy all this time. The nurse left, and the small garden was left with only Koo Korai. He didn't pull out his phone to check the time. Nor did he wander around. I had told him to wait there, and he had stayed put. Under the silent sunset, a solitary figure sat by the flower bed. The sight made my heart ache. Koo Korai, I called. He heard my voice and stood up, walking towards me. Sorry, something came up at the community center, so I'm late. It's okay. Your job is special anyway. I held out my hand. He looked a little puzzled. I smiled, my voice like I was coaxing a child. I'm here to pick you up from school and take you home. Koo Korai chuckled softly, then actively took my hand. Listen, next time I hold out my hand, you have to take it, okay? Otherwise, I, a little girl, will be embarrassed. With that, I laughed and pulled him along. Koo Korai's hand was large, wide, and warm. And for me, this was the first time I had ever actively held a man's hand. Outwardly, I acted calm, but inside, I was a mess. So, I didn't dare to turn back, afraid Koo Korai would see my face, red as a monkey's butt. But I had only walked a few steps when I heard his voice from behind. Okay, I know. His voice was very soft, but the weight of those words was not diminished at all. He said he knew. That meant next time, he would actively take my hand. Oh my God, it was such a straightforward answer, but why was it so adorable it made me want to scream? The incident probably scared the housekeeper so much that she didn't come back to the house for several days after Koo Korai was discharged. Not long after, he told me she had quit. That made me even more uneasy leaving him home alone, so I simply took him to work with me every day. Just then, the community center was short-staffed due to social distancing. I gave Koo Korai a red armband. From then on, he officially became a volunteer for the neighborhood. Every day, many elderly people came to the community center. It wasn't because they had anything important to do, but because their children were working far away, and they were bored at home, so they wanted to come here to chat and find some company. I arranged a table for Koo Korai where he could help the elderly set up their health codes. He didn't talk much, nor did he initiate conversations with anyone. At first, my colleagues thought I had brought in a mute person by mistake. But he worked very seriously and with extreme patience. Many elderly people couldn't use smartphones, or if they could, they didn't know how to operate the QR code, constantly asking the same questions over and over again. Koo Korai never got annoyed or showed any irritation. He just quietly sat there, doing each task carefully and meticulously. Many times, when I brought him water, just seeing his focused demeanor was enough to stir my heart. When Koo Korai was concentrated on work, he was calm, gentle, and sincere, so much so that it made your heart tremble. Suddenly, someone in the neighborhood turned on the loudspeaker, broadcasting a live Olympic game on their phone. I've been so busy lately, I haven't had time to pay attention to sports events. The TV commentator's voice was full of energy. The old folks around also silently watched, not saying another word. It seemed the match was reaching a tense climax. The atmosphere was filled with tension. I also instinctively felt nervous, but when I looked up, I saw everyone was focused on that phone, except Kook Horai. He sat quietly in a corner, his face as calm as still water, a hidden loneliness in his eyes that couldn't be concealed. He lowered his head, one hand on his left leg, the other tightly clenched. When the match results were announced, the whole room erupted in cheers, but he showed no reaction. The corner of his mouth curved slightly, but it hid a bitterness that was hard to detect. An old man standing nearby saw this and asked him, "Why do you look so indifferent? Kids these days have no enthusiasm. People are bringing glory to the country." Kook Horai said nothing, letting the old man scold him for a while. After a moment, he started printing QR codes for the next person again, as if he hadn't been affected at all. By noon, everyone gradually left, and the community center was quiet again. I brought 2 lunchboxes and sat down next to him. Some of those old men talk a bit roughly. Don't take it to heart, okay? I apologize on their behalf. He chuckled. It's okay. I don't mind. Then he turned to look at me, as if to reassure me. Pham Ting, I'm not as weak as you think. Actually, I've never really liked this world, so what other people say doesn't matter to me. He opened my lunchbox and picked out all the onion slices, putting them aside. My heart skipped a beat. He remembered I didn't like onions. I had only accidentally complained about it once when he was in the hospital, and he noticed and remembered it until now. Honestly, that old man didn't understand Kook Horai at all. Kook Horai wasn't the type who couldn't socialize. He was so delicate and gentle that it made others unable to help but feel for him. I also opened his lunchbox and picked out all the scallions and fried garlic. He didn't like those things. I knew it well because I had taken care of him for a long time. You said you don't like most of this world. Kook Horai looked up at me. I smirked. It's okay. After all, most of the world doesn't like you either. He was stunned for a few seconds, clearly not expecting me to say that. I quickly scooped a piece of food and brought it to his mouth, firmly saying, "But I like you. A lot, a lot." I discovered that Kook Horai was not only direct but also adorably innocent. Just a simple a lot made his ears turn bright red all afternoon. His eyes kept peeking at me, as if I were the sun and he were a small hedgehog looking for a place to hide. Clearly, I had already confessed to him when he was in the hospital, but he wasn't this flustered then. But I didn't have much time to think. As soon as I sat down, before I could even get comfortable, my colleagues and I had to grab our scooters and head out to handle something in the field. My small electric scooter weaved through every alley, working until sunset. Even though I encountered some uncooperative residents and was scolded a few times, I didn't mind. Thinking of Kook Horai waiting at the community center, my heart felt light. On the way back, I even bought 2 skewers of sugar-coated hawthorn berries, planning to reward my little angel Kook Horai for being well-behaved and working hard today. I was worried he'd be anxious waiting for so long, so I gripped the accelerator tightly, wanting to rush back. But as soon as I entered the door, I saw a crowd of aunties gathered around him. What happened in just one afternoon when I wasn't here? I walked closer and saw the auntie closest to him holding a stack of photos, enthusiastically introducing each girl to him. Not only that, the aunties were competing to praise him, saying he was handsome, had a good figure, and anyone could tell he was from a good family. That nodding kind of praise, anyone could tell they were core members of the Looks Above All club. Interesting. Daring to steal my man. Kook Horai looked up, saw me, and immediately seemed to find a savior. He instantly stood up, limping towards me. The crowd of aunties, who had been chatting excitedly, immediately fell silent when they saw him limp. Some whispered, "Oh, he's got a bad leg. What a shame. We were sitting there, didn't even notice. Now we know he limps. So young, too. Forget it." Those whispers clearly reached my ears, and I'm sure Kook Horai heard them too, but he said nothing, just quietly stood beside me. I tilted my head, smiled at him, then actively took his hand and turned to the aunties. "Aunties, don't introduce anyone else to him, okay?" I pretended to be serious. Because he's my boyfriend. You can't steal him from me. As soon as I finished speaking, the atmosphere instantly became silent. Some were surprised, some embarrassed, some completely confused. In short, their expressions were myriad. Even Kuk Horai looked shocked. I felt his hand tighten around mine, unusually strong. After seeing off the gossiping aunties, it was getting dark. The entire community center was left with just Kuk Horai and me. Since my electric scooter was out of battery, we both munched on our hawthorn skewers and slowly walked home. Sweet? I asked him. He nodded. Sweet. Do you like sweets? I shook my head. No, but life is hard to avoid unpleasant moments. Eating a little something sweet helps to comfort the heart. Kuk Horai chuckled softly. You're really interesting. Of course. I'm an interesting girl. Taking advantage of the hazy sunset, I held out my hand. This time, you take the initiative and hold it. Pham Ting, he asked softly, why did you tell everyone that I'm your boyfriend? Aren't you afraid of people gossiping behind your back? I held up our intertwined hands and shook them. You are my boyfriend. People's mouths are their own. They can say whatever they want. Besides, even if my boyfriend were someone else, they'd still gossip. Curiosity and nosiness are human nature, especially for older aunties. Kuk Horai hesitated slightly. But I'm different. I'm disabled. I disagreed when I heard that. Disabled? What disabled? I'm disabled too. I have severe nearsightedness. My eyes are messed up. It's just that I wear contact lenses, so you can't tell. I pointed to his leg as I spoke. And you, at most, walk a little off. It doesn't affect anything at all. Oh, right, you deliberately limped in front of those aunties just now, didn't you? You don't usually limp that much. You're a good actor. Scared off all those enthusiastic aunties. I poked his weak spot, and Kuk Horai burst out laughing. I pouted. See? I knew you did it on purpose. But I was really pleased with that performance. After all, a flower already has an owner. My sense of protecting my boyfriend's boundaries is quite strong. I excitedly pounced on him, hugged him, and gently kissed his cheek. Kuk Horai froze. He stared at me, his eyes making me flustered and blushing fiercely. With someone like him, I only had one option: go on the offensive. But I was still a girl, with little experience in dating. Being shy was normal. Pham Ting, he called my name. I looked up, my ears still burning. Meeting his gaze, my heart pounded even more. He looked at me for a long time, his eyes deep, then slowly said, "You're not like others." I was about to ask how I was different, but my intuition told me that if I asked now, I wouldn't get the answer I wanted. So, I didn't ask. I just grinned, revealing my cute snaggletooth, and replied, "Of course I'm not. Because I'm MNH Pham Ting, one of a kind in this world." On a rare weekend off, I carried a bag of groceries to Kuk Horai's house. He opened the door, looking surprised, but not in a "why are you here" way, more like he was simply astonished to have a visitor. He quickly took the bag from my hand and invited me in. As soon as I stepped inside, my eyes fixed on a food container on the table. What kind of takeout is that? Is the Yang Chun noodle gone already? Yeah, he glanced at me from head to toe. One bowl of noodles is enough to fill you up. Without even taking off his shirt, I could tell his physique was the kind that looked thin in clothes but was solid underneath. Veins popping on his arms, a hint of abs. I still clearly remembered the scene of him pushing the cart for the old woman that day. His arms, waist, and legs held surprising strength. He leaned back in his chair, lazily replying, "Didn't feel like eating much, just a quick bite." He started rummaging through the bag I brought. "Are you planning to cook at my place?" he asked, his voice a little strange. "What, are you embarrassed for me to cook?" He glanced towards the kitchen, shaking his head like a kitten. I thought he didn't want to cook, preferred eating out, so I decided not to say anything more and carried the bag straight into the kitchen. A moment later, I came back, staring at him. "Where are your cooking utensils?" Kuk Horai shrugged. "I haven't had a chance to tell you, My place doesn't have a chef. You don't? I stood there, dumbfounded. This kitchen had never been used. He nodded, giving an embarrassed, polite smile. All 3 of my daily meals are delivered. A simple sentence stunned me. Cook Horai always made me redefine beyond imagination. No phone password, no contacts in his phone book, all 3 meals delivered. I looked at the ingredients I had brought, lost in thought. Do you have a fruit knife? If not, scissors will do. I even imagined myself cutting tomatoes with scissors, but Cook Horai shook his head again. I gave up hope. Finally, he ordered takeout for both of us. While waiting for the food, he told me to sunbathe on the balcony while he went to wash the grapes. After all, that was the only fruit I brought that didn't need cutting. His balcony was wide and airy, connected to the study. I leaned the glass door open a crack to let in the breeze. The wind brushed my cheeks, soft and pleasant. From this angle, I could see Cook Horai. He was bent over, meticulously washing each grape in the clean, quiet kitchen, as if no one had ever stepped into it. His back exuded a unique light, sincere, serious, and breathtakingly beautiful. I smiled unconsciously, but at that very moment, the image of him lying in a pool of blood rushed back like a cold wind. All the details started to connect. No kitchen knives, no fruit knives, not even scissors. The kitchen had never been used. All 3 meals were delivered. There were absolutely no sharp objects in this house. Why? I started to feel uneasy. Had they been put away, or had someone completely disposed of them? I clenched my fist. Just then, a strong gust of wind blew through the balcony, making the curtains in the study flutter wildly. Several papers on the desk were also blown onto the floor. I hurried in, intending to close the glass door between the 2 rooms, but unexpectedly, I accidentally discovered something propped against the wall, very long, very noticeable. Even though it was wrapped in a fabric cover, I recognized it at a glance because of its unique shape, a pair of skis. I walked closer. The words printed on the cover gradually became clear. Just as I expected, its owner was Cook Horai. Don't look anymore. The grapes are washed. Come eat. His voice sounded behind me. I turned around and saw him holding a plate of fruit on the balcony. His eyes swept over the skis and then immediately moved away, not lingering too long. I looked at his left leg and softly asked, Cook Horai, were you a professional athlete? Asking that question, my heart felt anxious. Every word I uttered was filled with apprehension. He nodded slightly. I used to be. His tone was light, as if he was just recounting a trivial matter. He patted his left leg and smiled. Later, when I became crippled, I wasn't anymore. But it's okay. It's old news now, not important. His smile was as thin as a passing breeze, fleeting at the corners of his eyes, calm, as if he had let go a long time ago. But was that truly the case? My eyes felt like they were covered with a misty veil. He was lying. I still remembered his eyes that day when he watched the intense part of the match, those eyes filled with unwillingness and loneliness. If his legs had still been intact before, what kind of person would he have been? Would he have soared across endless white snowfields, freely and happily gliding? Or would he have plunged into the biting winds, enjoying the feeling of flying amidst wild nature? My eyes couldn't leave his leg. Suddenly, he took a few steps forward, the distance between us a little closer. I looked up, my eyes meeting Cook Horai's gaze. He said in a deep voice, Mnh Pham Ting, don't look at me with pity. If you do that, it'll make me truly think I'm a good-for-nothing. I don't like that feeling. The smile on Cook Horai's face vanished. The distance between us was now very close, so close that every ripple in his eyes was deeply etched in my heart. For the first time, I saw a hint of inferiority in him. I chuckled softly. What are you laughing at? He asked. I'm laughing because you don't understand a girl's heart at all. You know, I put my hands on his shoulders. He tensed, like he wanted to pull away, but I just held on tighter. Cook Horai, I honestly don't care if you limp or not. I told you, I liked you from the first moment I saw you. Your leg was already like this then, so to me, it's never been an issue. Not now, not ever. Because what I like is you, the person, that radiant soul in the sunset. It's the vibrant, shining Kuk Horai. He looked at me, and I looked at him. Our eyes met, raw and bare. When eyes speak to each other, words can hardly lie. I looked at his leg, not with pity. I let go of his shoulders and placed my hand on his chest. It was because I was curious. I wanted to know his past. Where was he from? What did he do before? What did he like? Why did his leg end up like this? I wanted to know everything. But I pointed to his heart. You don't tell me anything. It's hard for me to step into your world, to reach your heart. I don't even know where to start to make you happy. So, tell me, besides looking at you, what else can I do? Kuk Horai was silent, his eyes lost, mixing with so many emotions. After a while, he softly spoke, "MNH Pham Ting, do you remember when I said you're not like other people?" I nodded. He gently stroked my head, like petting a small cat. Before, there were others who liked me, but that was when I was at my brightest. You're different. We met in such a terrible situation. You've seen me weak, heard me say negative, defeated things, yet you still confidently said you liked me, and even publicly announced to so many people that I'm your boyfriend. He took a deep breath. MNH Pham Ting, meeting you is the most beautiful thing in my life. But now, I'm scared. I immediately asked, scared of what? When you first said you wanted to date me, I thought you were just having a momentary whim. But after spending some time with you, I realized you're serious. He gave a bitter smile that made me uneasy. He glanced at the skis beside him, silent for a moment, then said, "What you see in me, whether it's warmth, enthusiasm, or kindness, you can like, but please don't like the person who possesses those things." I was baffled. What did he mean? Don't you wonder why my house has no knives? Curious. Of course, I am. Before I could even answer, Kuk Horai began to explain. He had thrown everything away. He truly no longer yearned to live, but he was always trying to keep going. Yet, even so, there were times when his will faltered. He wasn't sure how long he could hold on, and he didn't want me to be sad because of him, which is why he was afraid to open up to me. MNH Pham Ting, compared to hurting you in the future, I'd rather we stop here. I couldn't believe it. After only a few days of dating, he was already talking about breaking up. I was so mad, I refused to sit and eat at the same table as him. Kuk Horai understood me well enough and ordered me a spicy snail noodle soup with fried eggs. He sat at the dining table, looking like he wanted to say something, then stopped. I glared at him. Don't even try to convince me. I'm not eating with you. I stubbornly hugged my bowl of noodles, squatting by the coffee table and slurping them down. I even casually opened my browser. I had just typed in Kuk Horai, and before the results could even load, he piped up again. Actually, I just wanted to say, maybe you should close the door and eat in the kitchen. Did I hear him right? I saw Kuk Horai pinching his nose, looking disgusted at the bowl of noodles in my hand. I gave a cold laugh. Just broke up and already acting like a snob, huh? He was speechless, saying nothing more. I gave him a long, drawn-out glare. Eating in the kitchen. No way. And breaking up. Even more no way, Kuk Horai. Don't forget, I do this job to help people. Even if you weren't my boyfriend, I'd still have perfectly valid reasons to pull you back up. After all, I'm the most outstanding community worker in this neighborhood, you know? With a high sense of awareness. Unable to argue with me, Kuk Horai obediently shut up and ate his noodles. Now that I knew he used to be an athlete, I couldn't help but do some digging. Someone who'd never cared about sports like me was curious for the first time. Do you have your own fan page? I asked. Kuk Horai paused for a moment, then shook his head. Not that famous. I've never been to the Olympics. I had just scrolled through an old interview. He had participated in many competitions, apparently, and was extremely impressive. The article also talked about his life from childhood. I had to admit, he really stunned me. This guy was truly talented from birth, piling up so much glory, from child prodigy to a rising star in the skiing world. The accompanying photo showed him holding up a championship trophy 3 years ago, yet his face, despite being a champion, held no joy. I want to find more information about you. Since you've decided not to tell me, I'll have to rely on the internet. It was a shame there wasn't much online. I searched for a long time, only finding a few scattered clues. Kukorai knew what I was doing but didn't stop me. Only when my phone warned of low battery did I stop. I glanced over and saw he had stretched out on the sofa, fast asleep. I tiptoed closer, gazing at his calm, handsome face. His breathing was soft, his eyebrows slightly furrowed, a few messy strands of hair on his forehead. He wasn't like when he was in the hospital, where his whole body exuded a sense of brokenness. Now, Kukorai was sleeping so peacefully, quietly, and gently, making you just want to stay by his side forever. He had definitely changed, I thought. Even though he always acted withdrawn, humans are inherently contradictory creatures, afraid to expose their wounds to the light, yet yearning for the warmth of the sun to soothe their hearts. I remembered what I had just researched online, my chest tightening. Only 2 pieces of information were useful. First, Kukorai had a twin brother named LC Din, who was also an athlete, and he had his own fan page, a prominent fencer in the fencing world. Second, Kukorai's leg injury was due to an accident 3 years ago during an international exchange competition. The vehicle carrying the athletes crashed in a tunnel. Just before the explosion, Kukorai saved his competitor, and it was that action that cost him a leg, ending his athletic career. Although most netizens praised his noble character, there were still many who vehemently condemned him. They mocked Kukorai, calling him a saint for sacrificing himself to save a foreign competitor. Their words were utterly vicious, constantly attacking him online, even sending wreaths to his home. That behavior was truly cruel beyond imagination. I couldn't imagine how Kukorai had gotten through that time. I didn't even dare to think, with his mother's personality, if he had been alone in the hospital then, with no one by his side. I sat there, looking at the man in front of me, wanting to reach out and touch his face, to smooth away the slight wrinkle in his brow, but my hand hesitated as soon as it rose, afraid of waking him. In the end, I let it drop. I chose to gently lean against the edge of the sofa, resting my head beside him, softly whispering his name. Kukorai, if your world is dark and without light, then from now on, I will be your light. If the sun can't guide your way, we'll just walk through the night, because even the brightest stars can show the lost their way home. I don't know when I finished speaking, or when I drifted off to sleep, only remembering the feeling of peace at that moment, someone so close by. I didn't realize I had fallen asleep until I opened my eyes and saw his face right in front of me, so close that I could touch him with just a slight tilt of my head. My whole body stiffened, my heart pounding wildly in my chest. He was still asleep, his eyelashes resting gently, his breath soft against my cheek. I looked at him for a moment, my gaze lingering on the corners of his mouth, so delicate and strangely peaceful. I realized this moment might be one of the most beautiful moments of my life. In that instant, a bold thought suddenly struck me. What if I kissed him? My heart pounded, my whole body burning. I secretly leaned up, gently lowering my head, only a spider silk distance from his lips. Just a little more, and I'll... Suddenly, he stirred slightly, his eyelashes fluttering, the corners of his mouth twitching. Before I could react, his eyes opened, just as I was leaning in close. Our eyes met. I froze, panicked, trying to pull back, but it was too late. Kukorai was clearly awake, and in his eyes, there was both surprise and alarm. He jolted as if he'd been lightly electrocuted, instantly sitting up and putting distance between us, his face flushed. He hesitated for a few seconds, then unexpectedly pulled out his phone from under his pillow, looking just as flustered as me. Pham Ting, you take this call first. His voice was hoarse from sleep, a little hurried. There were many missed calls, his phone still vibrating continuously in his hand. Being interrupted like that instantly cleared my head. I sat up, not forgetting to reach out and pull Kukorai along. Without a word, he firmly held my hand. This person kept calling me last night, but you were sleeping so soundly, so I didn't wake you up. It's someone named Zoe Ca. Hearing that, I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. Oh no, this is bad. I completely forgot. I hadn't been home all night. Who's that? A friend. Ku Korai looked at me, his eyes a little strange. Friend? What friend? That's my grandpa. I felt like crying, my face full of despair. Oh, no. I put one hand on Ku Korai's shoulder, solemnly saying, if I get beaten to death, you definitely have to help me with my funeral, okay? Most people get to relax on weekends, but me? I had to face a public shaming on the washboard, and then there was Ku Korai, the most innocent person on the face of the earth. MNH Pham Ting, 25 years old, for spending the night out and not answering her phone, received an immediate family punishment from her grandpa, even though Ku Korai very responsibly and patiently explained, but it's useless, grandpa. He's boiling mad. I'm his granddaughter, I didn't come home all night, and couldn't be reached, making my grandparents worry all night, almost calling the police, and then I spent the night at a guy's house? Which grandparents wouldn't have a heart attack hearing that story? I remembered the last time I knelt on the washboard was in elementary school, also because I skipped school to go catch butterflies in the field until it was pitch black and I didn't come home. Grandpa dragged me back and made me kneel on the board all evening. Who knew that even as an adult, I'd get to relive old memories? The kids are all grown up now, making them kneel on the board is embarrassing, Grandpa. Grandma gently interceded from the side, but my grandpa was famously stone-faced and iron-hearted. His stern gaze swept back and forth over Ku Korai. I'm punishing Tiu Ting, I didn't say he had to kneel. Yes, only I was punished to kneel, but Ku Korai insisted on kneeling with me, to be a pair. Grandpa then sternly asked, you're Tiu Ting's boyfriend, right? What's your name? How old are you? What do you do? His gaze quietly slid down to Ku Korai's leg. I cleared my throat a few times. Hint, hint, Grandpa, don't look at his leg anymore. Earlier, in the neighborhood, I had just announced Ku Korai was my boyfriend, and in just one day, the whole neighborhood knew. The news reached my grandparents' ears like wildfire. I know exactly what everyone's gossiping about. Of course, no one would let the matter of Ku Korai's leg go. My grandparents told me to bring him home to meet them again, but I kept putting it off. Now he's here, I'm just afraid Grandpa will question him like a household registration check. Remembering his earlier words about stopping here, I was worried he'd blurt out, I'm not her boyfriend. The situation was already complicated enough. Spending the night at a boyfriend's house might be acceptable, but if he wasn't even my boyfriend, then it was no different from spending the night at a stranger's house. In that case, even if I got beaten to death, it wouldn't be unfair. I shivered, blinking rapidly at Ku Korai, mouthing, please talk normally for me. He glanced at me, his expression calm, not a hint of panic. To my surprise, he very casually admitted he was my boyfriend and answered each of Grandpa's questions politely. Even when Grandpa's gaze lingered on his left leg, Ku Korai showed no discomfort. After Grandpa asked several more questions, he responded courteously to each one. In just one short interrogation, I learned more about him than I had all of last night trying to dig up information online. Even his family history and the reason for his leg injury, he explained clearly and coherently. My grandpa probably didn't expect him to be so cooperative and so sincere. Grandpa glared at me, then turned and went straight upstairs. Grandma saw this and quickly interceded. That old man is senile. They're just putting on an act. You two just kneel for a bit, it's just for show. I'm going to cook. Tu Horai, stay and have lunch with us, okay? With that, she gave a gentle smile and went into the kitchen. I was stunned. Tiểu Hoài. That nickname sounds so intimate. Ku Korai grunted in affirmation. I pouted. I thought for sure I was going to get a thorough scolding today. No matter what, even though I've been pampered since childhood, both Grandpa and Grandma were teachers, so they were always very strict about discipline. Ku Korai took off his jacket, folded it in half, and placed it under my knees. He chuckled softly. Perhaps it was because he knew how to admit his mistakes correctly, so Grandpa's anger subsided. A simple sentence made my heart tremble. I quietly lowered my head. One washboard, I knelt on half of it, he knelt on the other half. One soft, one hard. At that very moment, it felt like something warm seeped into my heart, gripping it tightly. I looked over at his side. The young man was still strangely calm, even though he was sharing the punishment with me. He smiled as if he didn't care about the scrutinizing gaze of the adults or the whispers behind his back. I suddenly thought, maybe he's truly trying to live again, to start over from here. The meal took place in an atmosphere that was not as tense as I had imagined. Just as I sighed in relief, Kukorai's phone suddenly vibrated. It was a video call. He glanced at the screen, hesitated for a few seconds, then hung up. But the other party wouldn't give up. The phone rang again. Just as he was about to turn it off, my grandpa glanced over. "Answer it. Maybe it's urgent." Kukorai hesitated, then finally took the phone and went out to the balcony. I quietly followed, closing the glass door, not to block the sound, but to give him some privacy. I unconsciously turned to look at the balcony. Kukorai stood there, softly replying, "Thank you. You too, have a good time." His face showed no emotion, as if his words hadn't touched his heart. In contrast, the person on the other end, LC Din, was incredibly excited, calling him continuously, his voice full of cheerfulness and joy. I didn't deliberately eavesdrop, but amidst the noise and the sound of cars outside, I vaguely heard 3 words, "Happy birthday." I froze. "Thank you. You too, have a good time," was a reply to a birthday wish. It was his birthday. I've been clinging to him all day, and suddenly, as his girlfriend, I had no idea. No birthday wish, no gift. I didn't know today was his birthday, not because I was thoughtless, but because he had never told me. From beginning to end, he hid so many things, from the scar on his leg to his shining ears. Even a day that should have been celebrated with hugs and cheers, he chose to pass in silence. At this moment, I suddenly felt a sting in my nose, not because I missed his birthday, but because besides his biological brother, who couldn't be with him, no one else remembered this day. No friends, no family, no party, no hug. All day today, he had calmly gone about his day with me, quietly taken punishment with me, helped me wash dishes, came home with me, and even gently apologized for interrupting the meal, without a hint of complaint or blame. It was just that no one mentioned it, and no one remembered. Only his younger brother, LC Din, rushed to call and wish him a happy birthday, only to be drowned out by a cold female voice. I immediately recognized it as Kukorai's mother. She asked LC Din who he was video calling, her voice as cold as ice, mixed with a hint of sternness. LC Din, who had been chatting excitedly, immediately stumbled over his words, stuttering like a child caught red-handed. Although she hadn't appeared on screen, she had clearly guessed. A cold scoff came from the phone. "Kukorai, your mother knows it's you. How many years has it been since you've come home? Do you still have the face to see your mother and father? You don't cherish your athletic career, always trying to be a hero and save people. Now look at you. Who's to blame? In this condition, what else are you planning to do?" Each word was like a cold needle piercing my heart. It wasn't that he didn't want to be remembered. It was just that he was too used to being forgotten, so he learned to pretend not to care. I will remember this day. I will be the first and last person today to say to him, "Happy birthday, Kukorai." I wanted to do something so that this year's birthday wouldn't be like previous years. I clenched my fists, just wanting to rush out, grab the phone, and hang up, but before I could act, Kukorai coldly hung up one step ahead of me. He turned and walked back to the dining table, his face still calm, as if nothing had happened. "Sorry, Grandpa, I just took a call that interrupted the meal," he said, then turned and smiled at me. That smile choked the words I was about to say in my throat. I wanted to wish him a happy birthday, but the situation was too heartbreaking. I didn't know whether to say it or not. Just then, Grandpa turned on the TV, switching to a sports channel. He ate while watching a live broadcast of a Paralympic event. I was stunned. Grandpa used to hate watching TV while eating, yet now he actively turned on the channel. I instinctively looked at Kukorai. Grandpa scooped up some food and said, "When I was young, I loved playing table tennis. I even represented the school in city-level competitions, but I only made it to the outer rounds. The opponents were too strong. That's why I always thought those who could step onto the world stage must be extraordinary." He pointed to the screen. See that kid? He competed in the Olympics before, then lost an arm in an accident. Who would have thought he'd compete in the Paralympics this year? Ku Korai softly read the athlete's name, his eyes lighting up as he looked at the screen. Standing beside him, I quietly watched him, suddenly understanding all the hidden meanings my grandpa wanted to convey. Those with true ability, even if they change their path, can still return to the top. Grandpa said it firmly, then fell silent, not adding anything else. I pursed my lips and smiled softly. My grandpa was usually a man of few words, but today, he skillfully used a whole story just to give him a little hope. Ku Korai, it's okay. You'll start again from scratch, and I'll always be by your side. Grandpa sat down in his rattan chair, flipping through newspaper pages, but his eyes never left Ku Korai. After a while, he slowly spoke, his voice deep and full of hidden meaning. It's hard to make someone who's already down confident, but it's incredibly easy to make them feel inferior. Everyone will fall into a deep abyss at some point, and if someone extends a hand to pull them up at that moment, who knows, it might change their whole life. I nodded profusely as I listened. My thumb went up, and I chuckled. No wonder you're a retired literature teacher. Every word you say is full of profound philosophy. MNH Pham Ting, don't flatter me. Grandpa's still mad about you not coming home last night, okay? As soon as he yelled, I scurried into the kitchen. Ku Korai, why don't you have dinner at my place tonight? That way, I can finally have some peace today. My little angel truly was an angel. As long as he was by my side, I'd survive today. After eating and washing dishes, I took Ku Korai home. Before leaving, Grandpa suddenly called us both back. He came out of his room holding a skewer of sugar-coated hawthorn berries, my favorite treat in the world. I bought this yesterday, but who knew you wouldn't come home? Now it's melted. I eagerly reached out to take it, but instead of giving it to me, he pressed it directly into Ku Korai's hand. Hey, why isn't it mine? I pouted. Grandpa pushed me out the door. Today's not your birthday. Then he slammed the door shut with a thud, adding, if you don't come home tonight, I'll break your leg. I was speechless. On the way home, Ku Korai kept staring at the hawthorn skewer in his hand, his eyes shining like stars. Stop staring and eat it already. I grumbled as I walked. I haven't even had a bite yet. He was still enjoying it with his eyes, reluctant to eat it. How many times have you eaten this before? Why are you so reluctant now? But this is different. This is the first birthday gift I've ever received from an adult. I froze. What? He's that old, and his parents never gave him a birthday present. That sounds so unfair. My family doesn't have a tradition of celebrating birthdays. When LC Din and I were little, we started learning sports. He learned fencing, I learned skiing. Besides studying, our whole lives were just endless training sessions. Ku Korai stopped and sat down on a bench by the roadside. He slowly recounted, my parents had very high expectations for us, so high that sometimes I felt I could never reach them. Between the two of us, they preferred LC Din because he was more obedient, less rebellious. I sat beside him, not interrupting, just quietly listening. Every word he spoke was like opening a small door in his heart, something he had kept tightly locked before. We sat from the fiery sunset until night fell, the starry sky spread above us. He didn't say much, some things he only mentioned in passing, but it was these fragmented memories that formed the image of a Ku Korai I had never known, a Ku Korai who was not happy at all. His strict parents wanted him and LC Din to become outstanding athletes, admired by others, so they took away his free childhood. No friends to play with, no genuine laughter. Every time he rebelled, they would lock him in a small, dark room, forcing him to stand and reflect on his mistakes, what they called facing the wall and contemplating, meaning to face the wall and examine his faults, just to turn him into the perfect child society praised. They plucked all the thorns from his body. His life was pre-programmed like a blueprint. What to do, what not to do, every step had to go through their system. In a family like that, who wouldn't suffocate? Just sitting quietly beside him, listening to all of this, I felt breathless, as if a heavy stone was pressing down on my chest. Ku Korai bit into a hawthorn skewer, slowly chewing. Sweet, really sweet. The corners of his eyes curved gently, like a cool night breeze. At this moment, Ku Korai was no longer the distant, hard-to-reach young man he once was. I knew I had stepped into his world, and now I clearly understood his earlier words. I have no desire to live, but I'm still trying to live. Since I started working at the community center, I had witnessed too many lives. Broken families, wounded individuals, and even those who seemed to be living but whose souls had long since died. Most of them had contemplated giving up, thinking that death would bring release, but I discovered something. Wanting to die and not wanting to live are two entirely different things. Someone might have thought about death, but that doesn't mean they've given up the desire to live. As long as a flicker of warmth touches them, as long as they taste sweetness just once, even for a moment, they will struggle, they will hold on, they will hope. Just like Ku Korai. He didn't not want to live. He just didn't know how to live. I quietly extended my hand. He instinctively took it. Ku Korai, you didn't participate in the Olympics because you got injured after that, right? Yeah, I didn't make it to the final selection. I remembered the photo I found when I searched online. I saw a picture of you on the podium, taking first place, but your face didn't show any emotion at all. Such a big international competition. If it were me, I'd probably be grinning so wide the sky would crack. Ku Korai pondered for a moment, then softly said, "When LC Din and I won awards as kids, we hoped my parents would praise us. Guess what they said?" I frowned. "Don't be complacent. You have to work harder." He gave a bitter laugh and shook his head. "They said taking first place isn't the ability. Being able to keep first place is the ability." I was speechless. Honestly, I just wanted to stand up and sing, "Thank you, because of you, all 4 seasons are warm." I tilted my head, softly asking, "So, do you yourself like skiing?" Ku Korai was silent. I didn't even bother waiting. I snatched the skewer from his hand and answered for him. "Of course, you like it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have carried that entire set of skis from the far north like a treasure." He looked at me and smiled, not replying, but his eyes were so gentle that my heart skipped a beat. My mouth opened wide like a bottomless pit, and in the blink of an eye, half of the hawthorn skewer was gone. Mảnh phàm tinh. That was the birthday gift Grandpa gave me, you know. Ku Korai put on a pouting face, looking adorably infuriated. Because of that, I was even less inclined to leave him the last bite. With the last cherry tomato in my mouth, I provocatively curled my lips. "So what? You're mine, so your birthday gift is naturally mine too." I chuckled, happily handing him the bare wooden stick. He looked at me and softly asked, "Do you like me that much, MNH Pham Ting?" His eyes sparkled as if they had just caught a basket full of light, and in that light, only my reflection appeared. I leaned in, cupping his face, looking straight into his eyes, and sincerely said, "Ku Korai, you can ask me as many times as you want. I'll always answer the same way. I like everything about you, good or bad, and I like the person who carries all those things even more. I hope you'll like me too, and like me a little more each day, because if you like me enough, you'll want to stay by my side for a very long time. Then, you'll yearn to live this entire life, yearn to live a full 100 years." From the day my grandparents met Ku Korai, he almost completely cut ties with the delivery food apps. He'd have breakfast with me, volunteer at the community center with me, and then only go home after having dinner at my place. Even on weekends, my grandpa would drag him along to play chess. The peak was when my grandma went to the market in the early morning, and he'd volunteer to go with her. Whose house is this, anyway, mine or his? Gradually, everyone in the neighborhood started to have a good impression of Ku Korai. He was polite, understanding, handsome, and charismatic. The house he lived in, he bought himself with prize money from previous competitions, which scored him even more points. He was educated and capable. His slightly inconvenient leg was no longer an issue. I felt like wherever I went now, people liked him more than they liked me. Even the neighborhood secretary called me several times, saying Ku Korai was a promising talent and to remind him to submit his application next time the community hired people. That day was a Saturday. I was still lazily lounging in bed when he walked into the room carrying a huge stack of express deliveries. MNH Pham Ting, are you buying bricks to build a house? This is so heavy, my back's gonna break, he complained, dropping the box with a thud onto the floor, then massaging his waist and flopping down on the edge of the bed. I mimicked his tired walk, shuffling over. He pretended to raise his hand to hit me. I quickly dodged. Those are the books I ordered. What? What books? He leaned in curiously. I started peeling off the layers of wrapping paper, showing him each book as I read the titles aloud: Comprehensive Administrative Competence Test, Administrative Major Essay, 5,000 multiple choice questions, past year's administrative exam papers. He looked at me, blinking. Are you going to take the civil service exam? I patted his shoulder, nodding seriously. Haven't you heard the saying? The ultimate destination of the universe is a government job. He chuckled. But why are you suddenly taking the civil service exam? It's not sudden. It's a plan I've had for a while, I explained seriously. The position I'm aiming for always requires at least 2 years of grassroots work experience. I've been working at the community center for almost 2 years now, so I'm eligible to take the exam. Hearing this, Koo Korai's eyes sparkled. You have such clear plans for the future. Of course. For me, holding that stainless steel rice bowl in my hand is the ultimate dream. So, do you want to take the exam with me? The neighborhood secretary also asked me to ask if you'd like to try working at the community center. Do you want to consider it? Koo Korai pondered, glancing at the stack of books on the floor. Or, I said, you could also go back to skiing. Skiing? He was a little startled to hear those 2 words. That's right. Get back on the track and start over. I'm not sure if Koo Korai had ever thought about planning for the future before meeting me, but at this moment, looking at his expression, I felt that he was probably starting to think about it. Under my enthusiastic coaching, Koo Korai finally learned how to ride an electric scooter. Every morning, he would ride to pick me up, and we'd go to work together. Some days, we'd have breakfast on the street. His favorite was the crispy egg pancake with extra egg and crispy bits, no spice. The old man who sold the pancakes had long been familiar with his taste. Every time Koo Korai paid, he insisted on using cash. He once told me, that old man uses his son's QR code. Did you know? When I volunteered here, I heard the residents say that old man works really hard, getting up at dawn to earn money, but his son just sits around, and all the money he earns eventually gets taken away. So, I'm afraid if I pay with a QR code, the money won't reach the old man's hands. I'd rather withdraw cash so he can keep his share. Because of that, the old man really liked him. I sat behind him on the scooter, looking at his back and the radiant smile on his face as he chatted with the old man, a feeling of indescribable warmth welling up in my heart. Koo Korai had truly changed. He was slowly climbing out of the abyss, step by step, reborn. But I never expected that just when everything seemed to be getting better, the person who had once pushed him into that abyss would reappear. On our way back from our work assignment, my scooter hadn't even fully stopped when the security guard at the gate rushed over, flustered. A middle-aged woman came looking for Mr. Kook. They just went to the small courtyard in the back. She doesn't look like an easy person to talk to. The guard's words suddenly made my heart uneasy. Sure enough, when I arrived, the setting sun was harshly illuminating the courtyard, but there were only 2 figures standing face to face. Just as I stepped in, I heard a sharp slap. The middle-aged woman, impeccably dressed and stern, her hand still trembling slightly in the air. Her face was cold and severe, making it difficult to approach her. Every word from her mouth was like a sharp blade, continuously piercing the listener's heart. Do you really want to humiliate your mother like this? With this condition, you still want to participate in the Paralympics? Do you want the whole world to know that my son is a cripple? She relentlessly mocked his injured leg, dismissing all his efforts to start over. In her eyes, Koo Korai, if he couldn't win a medal, everything he did was meaningless. She continuously rattled on about her sacrifices for her son from childhood, but when Koo Korai asked back, "Mother, do you really love me, or do you love the glory I bring?" she suddenly fell silent. He asked further, Did you ever favor Elsie Din more? She remained silent. Clearly, they were both her biological sons, but because his brother carried her surname, he was always loved and pampered more. Ku Korai was slapped, but he wasn't angry, didn't react, just calmly looked at his mother. So calmly that it was frightening. The lake lay still, not a ripple. They stood there, two figures silently facing off, neither speaking. After a long silence, his mother finally spoke again. Last time I'm asking, are you coming home or not? If you don't come with me today, then from now on, I won't interfere in anything you do. Consider me without a son. His question clearly hadn't made her reconsider. Instead, it had only irritated her more. Ku Korai chuckled softly. Madam Elsie, please leave. He stood tall, watching her retreating figure until the smile on his lips slowly faded. The midday sun was scorching, but I felt a chilling cold envelop him. I didn't walk towards him. Instead, I took a different path, heading straight to the end of the road to block her way. She sensed someone following and turned to look at me. You're the girlfriend Ku Korai mentioned. Her eyes, full of contempt, swept over me. I politely greeted her. She asked, are you the one who encouraged him to compete again? I nodded. Yes, that was me. You think he can still win a championship? I calmly replied, I don't need him to win a championship. I just need him to be happy. She looked unimpressed. You like him that much, huh? You don't care that he has a disability? I shook my head. She gave a faint smile, scrutinizing me from head to toe, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Right. If he hadn't gotten injured, he wouldn't have ended up in this strange place, and he certainly wouldn't have a chance to date you. A top-tier skier dating a small-time community center worker? What could two people like you possibly have in common? Her words were harsh, completely undisguised. I didn't respond. It didn't matter if she disdained me. We weren't from the same world, so there was no point in explaining. She looked at her watch. I don't have much time. You followed me, so you must have something to say. I calmly replied, I have nothing to say, just one question. What question? I clenched my hands. 3 years ago, when Ku Korai injured his leg, were you and Uncle there with him? She froze, probably not expecting me to ask that. Her expression was complex, and she stammered. At first, yes, but then Tiu Din also had to compete, so... Yes, I understand. Thank you. I cut her off, not letting her say more. That answer was enough. I politely bowed and then hurried back to the square. Ku Korai, that foolish man, was still sitting quietly on the stone bench in the square. There seemed to be an unspoken understanding between us. No one brought up what had just happened. When I called out to him, he didn't move, and uncharacteristically, he extended his hand. MNH Pham Ting, you haven't held my hand today yet. He said, smiling, his eyes curved like a crescent moon, so beautiful it made your heart ache. That feeling of being trusted and relied upon by someone made me want to hug him and protect him tightly. If he had never been chosen completely by anyone before, then from now on, let me be the one to do it. I walked over, took his hand. Let's go, my little angel. He stood up, content, and followed me, our hands still tightly clasped. Little angel. Is that the nickname you gave me, like calling Grandpa so ICA? Yes, in my phone contacts, your name is Little Angel. So you have to give me a nickname too. What kind of nickname? Ku Korai gently squeezed my hand and chuckled. My little sweet pastry. The sweetness of life. Today marks the 12th day I've been living at Ku Korai's place. Of course, I'm sleeping in the living room. Since I moved in, his kitchen has finally come to life. Pots, pans, and woks are finally being used. We have an unwritten rule. No one but me is allowed in the kitchen. My moving in was also out of necessity. First, my old apartment complex was locked down due to the pandemic. I could go to work in the morning, but I couldn't go back home at night, so my only option was to stay at Ku Korai's. Second, ever since his mother's sudden appearance, I've been on edge. I was afraid her harsh words would hurt him again, shattering the bit of confidence he had just rebuilt. I didn't want all our efforts to go to waste. However, lately, Ku Korai has been acting strangely. Due to the lockdown, I've been working overtime almost every day, and he hasn't been volunteering anymore, as if he's busy with something else. Today, I was lucky enough to get off early. I planned to have dinner and then find an opportunity to talk to him seriously. To my surprise, he broke his own rule and offered to cut fruit for me. Cutting is a very taboo action in this house. Using a knife has always been my job. I stared at him, unblinking. "Don't look at me like that. I'm fine now." He picked up an apple and walked into the kitchen. I still felt uneasy and followed him. "You don't have to cut apples. I can just bite into them." He pulled out a fruit knife from the rack. The blade glinted coldly, a flash across my cheek. For a fleeting moment, a shiver ran down my spine. After cutting the apple, he busied himself with laundry and cleaning the house. He even bought a bunch of snacks and gave me all sorts of instructions. Everything was too strange, as if he was going to leave me for a very long time. A sense of unease began to subtly spread within me. When he went into the bathroom, I quietly checked all the knives in the house. None were missing, but my heart still felt heavy. I paced on the balcony. Ku Korai had a habit of never closing his study window. The wind blew through, scattering papers on his desk to the floor. I bent down to pick them up and then froze. Among the messy white papers, one stood out glaringly. Thick black letters, a clear title, hit my eyes: Voluntary Organ Donation Form. My hands trembled as I picked it up. As soon as I saw the signature box with the name Ku Korai written there, my legs felt like they gave out, and I sat down on the floor. What was he planning to do? Remembering his recent unusual behavior, my heart felt constricted. It turned out he had never truly wanted to live, even after so many times hearing words of love from me, hearing how important he was to me. It still wasn't enough to heal his shattered heart. I sat on the sofa, my face ashen, quietly waiting for Ku Korai to come out. "Why didn't you turn on the light?" He came out of the bathroom, about to reach for the switch, but I stopped him. "Don't turn it on. If you do, you'll see my eyes are swollen like peaches." I don't know how he could see so clearly in the dark. He took a few steps and was in front of me, kneeling down. His warm hands gently touched my cheeks, wiping away the tears still shimmering in my eyes. His voice was full of worry, not knowing what to do. "What happened?" He wrapped his arms tightly around me, comforting me like a child. "It's okay. Whatever it is, I'm here." Hearing that, my tears flowed even more uncontrollably, pouring out like a broken faucet. I cried and accused him. "You liar! How long were you going to hide this from me?" I felt him stiffen slightly. After a while, he whispered, "You know? Actually, I've thought about it very carefully." "Thought about it very carefully?" I sobbed, cutting him off. "This is the result after you thought carefully." Ku Korai nodded silently. "I've decided." "Decided?" His voice was so resolute it made me want to scream. "Ku Korai, you know very well I would never agree to this, right?" He didn't reply. I clenched my fists, my nails almost digging into my skin. The more silent he was, the more I felt he was determined. "Ku Korai, I just want to ask you one question." "Yes." "Have you ever liked me, even just a little?" In the silent darkness, every sound was painfully clear. Even his heavy yes fell straight into my heart. I laughed, a bitter laugh, and hugged him with all my strength, so tightly as if afraid he would slip away. "Ku Korai, as long as you're alive, even if you don't like me, it's okay. You once called me your little sweet pastry in this world, right? Is it because I'm not sweet enough to reach your heart?" Just thinking about losing him, my tears couldn't be stopped. I cried and spoke incoherently, the pain twisting my insides. Ku Korai was utterly flustered at this point. "Why are you crying like this? I never said I didn't like you. MNH Pham Ting, I like you exactly as much as you like me. You're so sweet you're almost giving me sugar poisoning." His sudden confession left me stunned. I couldn't believe it and asked again, "You really like me? Really?" He replied as firm as a nail. My eyes lit up. I quickly wiped my nose and blurted out, Then why were you going to do something so foolish? Ku Korai was surprised. I only registered to be a bone marrow donor. There's nothing foolish about that. Isn't it doing a good deed? You even said you liked me because I help others. Wait, what are you talking about? I pushed him away forcefully, my voice trembling. Donate what? Aren't you talking about bone marrow donation? Ku Korai's eyes widened. My mind went blank too. We both sat there, bewildered, staring at each other. Two fools caught in our own melodrama. Ha, this is so embarrassing. Half a day of crying and fussing, and it turns out we were talking past each other. One was crying like rain, the other was frantically trying to comfort. The organ donation form I saw on the table was indeed real, but Ku Korai said he had thought about it for a long time and signed it in advance so that after he passed away, he could contribute to society. As for the bone marrow donation he was talking about, he asked me if I remembered the bald little boy he often visited when he was in the hospital. I did. He said the child's condition wasn't very optimistic, so while he was still in the hospital, he had applied for a test to see if he was a match for a bone marrow transplant. Hearing this, I suddenly remembered. No wonder when I picked him up from the hospital that day, the nurse specifically thanked him. So, it was a match. Yes. So I'll be staying in the hospital for checks and monitoring for a while. No wonder he's been acting like he's preparing his will lately, cutting apples and buying a bunch of snacks. You were afraid I'd be lonely at home by myself, right? Ku Korai nodded obediently. I can go with you, can't I? Oh, no, that's right, I can't. The committee requires me to just go to work and come straight home, and I interact with many patients. The hospital definitely won't let me in to take care of you. You know that, that's why you prepared so much food for me at home, right? All right, then why didn't you tell me sooner? You made me overthink everything. I almost had a breakdown. You're busy. I didn't want you to worry. Originally, I planned to only tell you if the results were a match, otherwise, I wouldn't bother you. Oh my God. He really is my little angel. I spontaneously lunged at him, covering his face with kisses. There's one more thing I want to tell you. What? Ku Korai took a deep breath, gripping my hand tightly, his voice serious. MNH Pham Ting, I want to go back to skiing. Even though I still don't love this world much, I love you, so I want to keep trying and build a future with you. Did I hear him right? I was so happy I was going insane. I clung to him like a hook, cheering and jumping around like a child. Are you that happy? I nodded profusely. I'm so happy I could faint. My little angel has finally come to his senses. I thought you'd be affected by what your mother said. Before I could finish, Ku Korai resolutely cut me off. No. Her words don't matter anymore. Now, I only listen to you. Ha. That's awesome, absolutely awesome. I want to set off fireworks and make the whole neighborhood explode. Ku Korai hugged me and spun me around in the living room. We danced to the rhythm of joy, two people in their 20s acting like two children, singing and dancing exuberantly. Ku Korai tightened his grip around my waist, leaning close. MNH Pham Ting, even though I've said it before, I want to say it again. Meeting you truly is the best thing that has ever happened to me. Besides Ku Korai's return to skiing in recent years, I successfully passed the civil service exam. Even though he spends most of his time training in the north, that doesn't stop him from calling me 3 times a day to report on his situation. He's becoming more and more attached, and more fond of cuddling. I take advantage of my holidays to fly out and visit him, and he takes advantage of his breaks to come back. We're inseparable. Now, everyone in the neighborhood knows he's a skier. Whenever he has a competition, all the aunties and uncles gather in front of the TV, cheering him on. Even he never imagined he'd have a team of elderly fans one day. As for Ku Korai's mother, true to her word, she hasn't contacted him since, acting as if there was never a son named Ku Korai in the world. But Ku Korai lives lighter than ever. Because of my busy work, I rarely get to watch him compete in person. This year, I was lucky enough to get some time off to visit. Only, I didn't expect to meet El Cid in this time. When I saw him, for a moment, I thought it was Kuk Horai, but I quickly realized it wasn't. My gut feeling was different. A hello, sister-in-law made me even more certain of his identity. That he knew me surprised me a little. I thought Kuk Horai must have sent him a picture of us, but LC Din said no. He stammered, wanting to speak but then stopping. I immediately guessed, "You secretly came to watch your brother, didn't you?" Sure enough, his reaction confirmed my suspicion. "Why didn't you just come and openly watch him?" LC Din gave a faint smile. "I don't want to disturb his life anymore. He finally found his freedom with great difficulty." LC Din said those words, his eyes never leaving the field. In his eyes, it seemed there was only Kuk Horai's image left. "You hope I won't tell Kuk Horai about this meeting. You just wanted to meet me to thank me directly, thank me for steadfastly entering Kuk Horai's world." He said he owed Kuk Horai a lot. When they were little, every time he made a mistake, Kuk Horai was always the one who covered for him. He took all the blame, enduring harsh punishments in his place. He regretted being too weak as a child, not daring to go against their parents like Kuk Horai did. Even when Kuk Horai took the blame for him, he didn't have the courage to step forward and tell the truth. What bothered him most was that while he was enjoying his mother's love, his blood brother was locked in a dark room, forced to self-reflect for things he never did. He told me so much. I just sat quietly and listened. Finally, he choked up and whispered softly, "My brother is truly a very, very good person." I told him, I know better than anyone. He's always been that wonderful, just never happy. But now he has me, and for the rest of our lives, we'll live happily together, making up for the years he lost." Hearing that, LC Din fell silent. I could feel his expression slowly relax. At this moment, the stands around us roared with cheers, but in our eyes, there was only Kuk Horai. Watching him glide, watching him leap, watching him shout in the intoxicating joy of victory, watching him stand on the podium receiving the dazzling spotlight. He had used time and action to once again prove himself, giving a perfect response to the career he loved his entire life. When the cameras and microphones turned to him, a reporter asked, "What are your next plans?" Kuk Horai seriously replied, "I've achieved my ideals and experienced a completely different stage of my career. I'm considering retiring. I want to spend the rest of my life doing more meaningful things." The reporter pressed further. He didn't hide anything. "I might go home, read books, study for the civil service exam, practice 5,000 administrative multiple choice questions." The reporter was astonished. "Are you serious, Kuk Horai?" "Of course." Reporter, "Why did you suddenly have the idea to work so hard?" Kuk Horai looked directly into the camera, proudly telling the entire audience, "Because my girlfriend, MNH Pham Ting, once said that in the end, the universe always leads to a government job." Okay guys, if you find it good, give me a like and a sub. Love you all.